Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, the history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Friday, May 3rd, 2019. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Especially this week. It's been a long, arduous week. And I could use a little weekend off. So could Claire. So anyway, we've got lots to talk about today. Claire will be with us in the third hour. Our phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Sam is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and opinions. So let's just get right on into it. Down in Venezuela, Maduro has issued yet another video of him jogging with the military at dawn. Obviously a very, very large crowd, much larger than the handful of soldiers who were surrounding Guaido the other day. But Maduro is now starting to talk tough. He said the time has come to fight. We are hearing that some of the opposition leaders involved with the botched coup d'etat have been arrested. And as far as Lopez, apparently he was under house arrest and basically broke that to stand with Guaido the other day. So a warrant has been issued for his arrest with the idea that he'll spend the rest of his sentence behind bars. And I think it's something like 13 years is what he got sentenced to. So Maduro's out there saying, soldiers of the country, the time has come to fight and set the example before the world by defeating attempted coup plotters who sell themselves to Washington dollars. To say that in Venezuela there's a loyal and cohesive armed force like never before. So he's starting to put on those presidential brass knuckles. Story coming out of Fars News saying that the U.S. coup in Venezuela, it's going to go nowhere. And the article is basically saying everybody understands what's going on. This is another U.S. attempt at regime change. Guaido keeps calling for a military coup. It's not happening. Vice President Pence's statement of support for the coup is being echoed by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and National Security Advisor John Bolton. It's the same players over and over and over again. So both Pence and Pompeo say the U.S. supports the Venezuelan people. In reality, however, they refuse to acknowledge that Maduro was elected by the Venezuelan people last year in an election with international observers who said that as elections go, it was one of the fairest, most open, transparent, and verifiable, certainly compared to those here in the United States of America. Now, the United States is, like I reported yesterday, there is this little bit of a conflict going on between Donald Trump and the Pentagon, who don't think direct military intervention is a good idea. And on the other side, of course, there's John Bolton out there saying, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. So what the U.S. is talking about today is just giving the Venezuelan opposition, Juan Guaido, a ton of cash, so he can basically buy more support for his opposition in Venezuela, because it is a very cash-strapped country, and with enough money that they can buy the support, they think they can buy the support that they need. So, of course, this huge influx of cash heading for Venezuela is not being paid for by the oil companies that will profit off Venezuela's oil. It's not even being paid for by the U.S. government. Ultimately, it's coming out of your pocket. The U.S. government is going to take more money away from you in order to go overthrow a foreign government, off of which American corporations will then make a huge profit. This is a recurring pattern. You should be aware this is what's going on. Okay, Iran is now condemning the U.S. coup attempt in Venezuela. It's warning against military action. Of course, they're a little bit far away to actually do anything about it, unlike in Syria. And Venezuela, it's even a little bit of a reach for Russia, although Russia is apparently there with a couple of bombers and some other advisors, if you will. So we'll see what's going to happen there. Now, speaking of Iran, the United States is attempting to lobby the United Nations against Iran's missile work, and Iran's envoy to the United Nations has denounced U.S. attempts to portray Tehran's conventional missile program as a breach of Security Council Resolution 2231 that endorsed the 2015 P5+1 nuclear deal. And they're basically raising 2 points. Okay, first of all, that Resolution 2231 never covered Iran's missile activities. And 2, how does Washington have anything to say about Resolution 2231 when they violated the agreement by simply walking away? But that's what the United States is trying to do up there, is to try and get the UN to say Iran cannot have defensive missiles. They're not allowed to have defensive missiles. When the U.S. or Israel attacks Iran, we want to be able to go in there without any interference. How dare they prepare to defend themselves against an attack? How dare they dare to dare? All right, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. I'm going to grab a quick swig of water here. And I get so dehydrated doing the show. Okay. NATO has beefed up its presence in the Baltic region considerably ahead of a series of massive Army and naval drills that will take place over the next 2 months. And apparently a unit of 4 Royal Air Force Eurofighter Typhoon warplanes officially started their airspace policing mission over the Baltic states yesterday, taking over from the German Luftwaffe, whose planes had carried out the rotating patrols since last August. So the air policing mission was handed off to the RAF at a solemn ceremony attended by Estonian, British, and German military personnel at the Amari Air Base near Tallinn, Estonia, 200 kilometers west of the country's border with Russia. So they're just flying the airplanes around and burning up the fuel and running up the Hobbs meters. And something that you need to understand about those warplanes, they're not designed like commercial planes to last a very, very long time. Somebody does a calculation and says, we figure these will fly for so many hours before they get shot down, and that's what they're designed. That's what they're designed for, which means basically flying constant patrols wears the aircraft out. Now, a while back, the United States announced it would withdraw from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. They did that last October. And to nobody's surprise, the U.S. has now signed over $1 billion with a B in contracts to build missiles that had previously been banned by the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. So they're basically arming up. And that runs contrary to the U.S. own claims last February that it would continue to respect the boundaries of the treaty. But then these days, nobody believes anything the U.S. government has to say, neither should you. Over in Lebanon, the Hezbollah militant group is claiming to have sufficient resources to enter Israel's border region of Galilee and destroy Israeli forces if the IDF attacks Lebanon. This is coming from Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah. And I wish people would sort of tone down the rhetoric and stop talking so tough here. But he went on to say the resistance has many strong and decisive means. The time for a quick war is over. The resistance is capable of entering Galilee. That part of Israel that thinks about intervention in Lebanon will be destroyed and crushed. So he's talking basically about a targeted decap strike. Over in Jordan, the king, Abdullah II, has fired several senior officials, including the general intelligence chief, over the past week, following reports that there was a plot to destabilize the kingdom. Now, I wonder who would want to do that. But the Kuwaiti newspaper Al-Kabas, citing anonymous sources, reported several senior and influential Jordanian figures had conspired to hold a mass protest outside the royal palace in Amman to demonstrate a lack of public confidence in Jordanian Prime Minister Omar Razaz and create instability within the kingdom. So the Jordanian king has replaced the director of the General Intelligence Department, General Adnan al-Jundi, who held one of the most influential positions in the country. So they're retiring Jundi, they're replacing him with General Ahmed Husni, who has served in several senior intelligence posts. So a little bit of a shakeup over there. Getting on back to the United Nations, Israel's UN ambassador, Danny Danon, was out there claiming that Israel owns all of Palestine and was waving a Bible around and saying, this is the deed to our land. The Bible is proof to Israel's fundamental right to all of Palestine. So Danon is out there claiming ownership to all of Palestine, which he calls Eretz Yisrael, at a time when the international community is worried about Netanyahu realizing his recent election promise to annex the occupied West Bank. Now, such a religious claim coming from a supposedly secular representative of a supposedly secular democratic state put forth into a serious political world assembly may seem bizarre, but it's not new. Back in 1937, the New York Times reported how David Ben-Gurion was claiming the Bible was a kind of deed to the land in his testimony to the British Royal Peel Commission. And annexation is definitely on the horizon. Jared Kushner said just yesterday that Washington would in fact discuss the possibility of Israel annexing the West Bank settlements when the new Israeli government is formed. Now, Israel and the Palestinians, he's saying that they should wait to see his Middle East peace proposal before making any unilateral moves. In other words, he wants to take credit for whatever's going to happen here. But here's what's very alarming, and it's not coming as a surprise. We knew this was coming. Jared Kushner is out there saying, let's not even talk about a two-state solution. Let's just not say it. If you say two-state, it means one thing to the Israelis. It means one thing to the Palestinians. You know, let's just not say it. Let's just say, let's work on the details of what this means. So it's definitely not a two-state solution in the offering. Over at New York University, their Department of Social and Cultural Analysis passed a resolution that pledges non-cooperation with the university's study abroad program in Tel Aviv, citing the obligation to uphold the university's policy of ethical conduct on non-discrimination and equal opportunity. The faculty declared non-cooperation with the program until the Israeli state both ends its restrictions on entry based on ancestry and political speech, as well as adopts policies granting visas for exchanges to Palestinian universities on a full, equal basis as it does to Israeli universities. So there is a growing resistance to Israel. And as we reported earlier in the week, there's a Gallup poll showing Americans are now more supportive of Palestine than of Israel. And as a result of that, according to this article in American Free Press, there are new AIPACs popping up. We mentioned this yesterday. Israel is losing its grip on the American people. And I think one of the big mistakes they made were trying to push all of these anti-BDS laws, which just are an affront to what it means to be an American. And I think it just built up a lot more hostility. So Israel is basically setting up all kinds of new lobbying groups to try and put more pressure on Congress to keep on doing what Israel wants them to do. And not just Congress, the state legislatures are now being targeted because that's where many of these anti-BDS laws were being passed. And I'm glad that some judges, like that one down in Texas, are saying, yeah, this is unconstitutional. This should have never even gotten to the floor of the legislature. All right, we're coming up on Memorial Day. And over in Israel, there is a joint Memorial Day ceremony that brings Israelis and Palestinians on both sides together to mourn and acknowledge each other's grief for loved ones killed in the conflict. Unfortunately, this year, Israel has turned down all 181 applications of Palestinians from the West Bank invited by the organizers of the Memorial Day ceremony in Tel Aviv. And sources reported in Haaretz that the order banning the Palestinians came directly from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay. There's been another incidents of vandalism over in the West Bank where settlers are spraying racist graffiti on Palestinian homes, along with slashing the tires of Palestinian cars in the northern occupied West Bank. You know, it's behavior like that that is leading to the loss of support for Israel. Israel just got used to being able to behave like this and expect that the corporate media and politicians would make excuses and cover up for them. But it's not working any longer. Meanwhile, over in Twitter, apparently there is now a pogrom, if you will, against Palestinian voices. And apparently 3 different members of the team for Palestinian Voices have had their Twitter accounts destroyed. Abdul Rahim Al-Farah, Baha Shamala, and Saif El-Din Bitar. So Twitter has now been compromised by Israel. Okay, we're going to take a phone call now from Jim in Illinois. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, Michael, before I begin, the guy that fell into the volcano out your way, was
Yes.
he trying to sacrifice himself?
No, he was being a dummy, and unfortunately, every year we get about maybe 12 of these on average, where people will go down to Volcanoes National Park, and they think those little barricades that are set up by the park rangers are just for decoration, and they are not. And part of the issue is that you can molten lava. In this case, the guy wanted to step over and take a picture or something down into Kilauea Crater, which has been changed dramatically following last year's eruption. And the ground gave away, and he fell 70 feet down, and he died. And folks, I'd love you to come to Hawaii. It's a beautiful state. The volcanoes are amazing to look at, but please understand those barriers are there for your safety, and it's just it's a shame that it happened.
Now, that volcano, is it active?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Moving on to the economy. Michael, when are they going to stop lying about the job situation?
They're going to go on lying about it. It's just like the old Soviet Union, where Pravda and Izvestia said, oh, yeah, everybody's working, everybody's got a job. But we know it's all a lie for a very simple reason. If the unemployment numbers were really that low, we would expect to see wages and salaries heading upward to attract better workers. That's not happening. And that's why we
Right.
know that it's a lie.
Right. And finally, history might repeat itself because back in 1973, May of 1973, that's when the Watergate hearing started. Then in September, in fact, September 11 of 1973, that's when the CIA and other groups of people got rid of Allende. So history could repeat itself.
Yeah, very much so. History may not repeat, but it definitely is rhyming right about now.
Right. Now, was the Yom Kippur War, was that in 1973 or was that 1970?
Oh, boy, there have been so many of them. I know the Six-Day War was in 67.
Right.
It may have been 70, but don't quote
70.
me on
Okay,
that.
then. All right, then, Michael, you take care. Have a nice weekend.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to take a break for commercials. We've got more callers waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We're going to go right back to the phones here to Al in Canada. Aloha, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. The war that you guys were talking about, Yom Kippur, that was 1973. This two-state solution, this has been banging around since 1974. and it's supposed to be based upon pre-1967 borders.
Yes.
It's never happening, is it?
Up until recently, it had actually been a mainstay of U.S. policy toward Israel and Palestine, but obviously Trump and Kushner are just going to throw it out.
Well, it's painfully obvious. And what would you suggest, Mike? There's nothing left. There's really nothing left.
Yes.
So, what's next?
Well, unfortunately, Israel never wanted there to be a Palestinian state. In fact, they started out trying to insist Palestinians had never even existed. There was a big lie for you. But yes, they have strategically carved up the West Bank with those illegal settlements so that there isn't a contiguous block of land on which a state of Palestine can be built.
And that's exactly what they planned.
That was exactly what they planned.
Oh, yeah. It's 1974 for crying out loud. And, of course, it was never meant to happen. I mean, Jimmy Carter's right up there with this sort of thing, right?
Yes.
And he was thrown under the bus. Yeah. They got rid of him pretty quickly with the Iran-Contra affair and, basically, Ronald Reagan.
Carter was sort of a side effect of Iran-Contra because that was actually being run by George Herbert Walker Bush. And they did their little October surprise deal and it just basically derailed Carter. Carter wanted to rescue the hostages. Somebody sabotaged the helicopters so they couldn't get in there and get the hostages out. And that was the end of Carter's presidency. And I'm going to make another prediction here. As soon as Israel annexes the West Bank and is recognized by Washington, D.C., they're going to go after Gaza again. They're going to take that back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're not going to stop there. That'll satisfy, the people that are looking for this state of Israel for just a little while. And then they'll continue going again.
Yes.
They don't have any extradition treaties there, do they, Mike?
No, they don't.
Yeah. So it's turning out they're building themselves a little haven of crooks to hide in.
Yes.
Right? It's a shame. What a shame. Thanks a lot for your time, Mike. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks an awful lot. And we're going to switch over to Art off the grid. Aloha, Art. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. If you'll bear with me, I know this might sound a little crazy, but I was listening to our local talk radio station here, which is about an hour away from where I live, and they were talking about this belief that Alexandria Cortez has somehow managed to build up enough clout that she can actually instill fear in those Democrats that aren't quite as far to the left as they would like. And so now they're using this newfound power that they have to try to intimidate any Democrats that aren't left enough into going along with what they want to do. Now, I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about how I always talk to people about how art imitates life. And we can see a lot of this in TV and movies. And, for example, in this TV series called Continuum, it's a lady cop from the future gets propelled into the past,
Yes.
along with a bunch of anarchist criminals. I'm sure you've heard about it.
Yes.
And they talk about the corporate democracy, and they refer to the food rights of the future, and they talk about this company called San Monto, which that's a direct reference to Monsanto, and they're talking about how this Liberate, the Lib R and the number 8 group is against this corporate democracy. But then this morning they were talking about what was happening. They were talking about Cortez and all of this, and trying to make a connection between what's happening with Facebook and how what's his name, Crowder, and his 4 million followers, whatever, may be banned because of some kind of stupid garbage that they're trying to create. And they were talking about how what's his name, the founder of Facebook, I can't think of his name right off the bat, is like kind of secretly begging for this Facebook to become something like a public utility. And then what they were talking about was this would be the next step before they go to full-blown corporate socialism. And so thinking about all of this, I'm kind of wondering, does any of this seem plausible to you? Does it seem like this might be where they're trying to go with this?
Well, the problem with taking Facebook and declaring it a public utility is then it would be opened up to First Amendment lawsuits. The whole liberal justification to support the censorship is, hey, these are private companies and they can do what they want. This is, of course, coming from the same people who went ballistic when a baker refused to make a gay wedding cake. Anyway, Art, stay on the line. I'm going to bring you back after the commercial break.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're talking with Art Off the Grid. We're talking about life imitating art and how very often ideas that we'll see in TV shows eventually seem to become reality. And Art was sort of saying, are they trying to use the TV shows to telegraph their intentions to us? It may be going the other way. Do you remember the movie 3 Days of the Condor?
Yes, I do.
Okay, it was based on a book called The 9 Days of the Condor. They shrunk it down, obviously. And the whole backstory of that film and book was that there was this CIA office, and all they did was read cheap spy novels, look at TV shows and movies, and try and pick out ideas that might be useful to CIA covert operations.
Right.
So that may be the line of communication.
Well, it just seemed awful strange to me, because I mean, I look back, when I first got interested in this life imitating art thing, or art imitating life thing, and somebody started pointing out various things that just really did seem to connect. It was almost like, they really were using the media to kind of prepare people for what was to come. And if we look back over the past 60 or so years of movies and TV and all of this, we can actually see where in many respects it wouldn't be so far-fetched that maybe they are using the media to prepare us.
Well, I'm sure that, obviously the corporate media is being used by the government to propagandize us. The issue is, they're trying to use the media to sell us the wars, to reassure us the economy is doing great, even though anybody with two eyes knows that that is an absolute flat-out lie. But in terms of trying to condition us to accept, for example, the New World Order, that's I'm not really seeing that. It may be possible sometime in the future. I understand that next year Hollywood is planning a whole raft of LGBTQ themed movies to try and push that agenda as well. But I don't expect they're going to do that well, because the past history of film in this country has been that movies pushing certain agendas generally don't do well. People don't go to the movies to be propagandized or brainwashed. They go to be distracted from how terrible life can be. They want to see Busby Berkeley and the girls out there dancing around, and they don't want to go into a movie and have some liberal agenda shoved down their throat. Those movies tend not to do very well.
Well, it just kind of got me thinking when I heard him talking about that this morning, and and I'm thinking, look at all of the movies portraying, the Holocaust and all of these other things, and how many people today actually, when you talk to them about it, it's almost like they're just talking about a movie.
Yes.
Because it wasn't possible for 6 million Jews to be killed, and because there weren't 6 million Jews in Europe, there were only like 3,700,000 or something thousand. So how do you kill twice as many as were even in Europe at the time? And but when you hear people talking about it, it's almost like they're talking about the movies. I mean, you can almost relate,
people will believe what they see in the movies, and very often it's completely wrong. But you're absolutely right. One of the areas in which movies and TV do propagandize us is the approved official version of World War II.
Right. And so that's what I was thinking when they were talking about it this morning, and they were talking about corporate socialism. I mean, I can see corporate democracy to a degree. I can see that becoming something that they would push, but corporate socialism, I'm not even sure how that would even work. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, thanks, Mike. I've taken enough of your time. I'm sure you got other callers with probably more interesting things than my crazy weird thoughts.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the phone call here. And corporations tend not to be socialistic to begin with, so I don't know how far that's going to go. Let's go to Dan in British Columbia. Dan, thank you for waiting so patiently, and what's on your mind?
Hi, Michael. Yes, I was listening to a show. I think it was on RBN, or it could have been Rent. It was late at night, and I was kind of half dozing asleep. But one of either the guest or the caller made a kind of a statement that he thought about the reason that they might go into Venezuela. And because it just doesn't seem like it makes any sense. All of a sudden, they want to focus on, invading Iran and goading Iran and this and that. And all of a sudden, Venezuela's on the target list. First it was North Korea, now
Yes.
it's Venezuela. So the theory was, I thought I'd run it by you, is that if they take Venezuela, because of the oil there, it won't disrupt the world's oil supply when they invade Iran. If they invade Iran, that's going to put a lot of countries. I know there's a lot of, like India, for example, basically can't survive without Iranian oil. There's a lot of countries like that.
Yes.
So I just thought I'd throw that in there. And,
well, it's
and
an
pass that
interesting
along.
theory. The only problem is, how do you get Venezuela's oil over to the other side of the planet in enough volume to make up for that Iranian shortfall? Because all over the Middle East and that part of the world, oil is being delivered primarily by pipeline. And the tanker capacity, I don't think, can match that. I could be wrong. If there's an expert in the oil markets wants to call in and check me on that. But I think it would be very, very difficult to get Venezuela's oil, to start flowing into the countries currently served by Iran. Now, Venezuela does send tankers out to places like China, but that's an established route with established ships. So I'm not sure. I think the reason they went into Venezuela was because they pretty much lost in both Afghanistan and Syria, and they're trying to keep up the war momentum before the whole agenda falls apart.
Yeah, that's probably more likely. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. I did want to make a note for the board op or whoever runs RBN. There's a cell phone website, radio.net, and you used to be able to get RBN streaming on it, and now you can't. So I can't listen to RBN on my phone. On my mobile
okay,
phone
what was the name of this streaming service?
Radio.net. It's on RBN's website. It's one of the mobile-friendly link, and it just doesn't work anymore. So they must have got a hold of or found out that RBN was, a no-no or whatever, and just axed it. So just something I thought maybe Mike or Sam or whoever can. Might want to know about that.
It does look like it's been scrubbed here. Let me do another quick little search. I mean, it certainly doesn't bring up my show. No, wait a minute. Here it is. I did a search for RBN, and it came up right here at the top of the list.
It comes up, but when you try, at least here in Canada, when I try and link it, it just has a big X in red letters saying that this is no longer available. So.
Okay, well, that appears to be Canada.
Yesterday.
Yeah, that appears to be Canada.
Okay.
All right, well, listen, thank you for the information, but at least here in the United States, if you go to radio.net and you search for RBN, it comes up right at the top of the list.
All right. Hey, thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open. Just close that here down, and there we are. Getting on back to the news. There's been another revelation about Israel's nuclear weapons capability, and apparently in the lead up to the 1967 Six-Day War, Israel had fabricated a plutonium core, and they were hiding it in an old British-built police station outside the town of Gadara, and they were prepared to turn it into a functioning nuclear weapon if necessary. And this has been whistleblown by a former Israeli official who guarded the site. And this story came out just this last Wednesday. So, again, Israel is a nuclear-armed state. They're not an existential threat from their neighbors. They are the existential threat to their neighbors. And they certainly don't need more weapons from the United States taxpayer to defend themselves. Nobody's going to attack a nuclear-armed state. That's the whole point of having nuclear weapons. Leave us alone. Up in Afghanistan, their Grand Tribal Council, named Loya Jirga, wants the United States to leave. And Afghan President Ashraf Ghani opened the Grand Peace Assembly under a huge tent in central Kabul with some 3,200 tribal elders, as well as senior community and religious figures from all over the country. The 4-day negotiations were aimed at finding ways to strike a peace deal with the Taliban militant group. We keep hearing that they're starting to talk nice with each other. And of course, the United States does not want that to happen. They still want that access at low cost to that oil and gas pipeline, and American drug lords and pharmaceutical companies still want access to all of that opium. So that will be kind of interesting to see where that goes. Over in the South China Sea, China is getting ready to deploy some of their new stealth fighters. And they're getting ready to unveil their first stealth fighter before the end of the year. They're also developing long-range, nuclear-capable bombers. And there's top U.S. Air Force commanders out there hyping the China threat. Oh, China's a threat. They're eroding our dominance. How dare they do that? How dare they refuse to just sit there and let us bully them? And what this is, let's be very honest, it's a beg for more money. They want a bigger budget. Doesn't matter how much money the Pentagon gets, it's never enough. And when you look at all the waste and just how much money they have just outright misplaced, and it's just wildly out of control. So they're out there with this Cold War mentality saying, oh, China's a threat. China's a threat. We've got to have more money to deal with, China's stealth capability, those Chinese hackers. And in this report, they also came on out basically accusing ethnic Chinese people in general of being willing to advance China's interest. And that is hedging very dangerously close to the internment camps where the Japanese people were put during World War II, which is a major, major stain on our history. Apparently, there was a program to train Afghan attack pilots here in the United States, and it has now been disbanded because nearly half of the airmen went AWOL in Texas. Apparently, 40% of the Afghan Air Force students enrolled in the program went absent without leave in the middle of the training. The pilots were being trained to fly the AC-208 Combat Caravan, which is a light attack combat aircraft, and only one class actually graduated from the U.S.-based program, and the students that did not go AWOL were pulled back to Afghanistan to complete their training. All right, we're going to take another phone call here, this one from Mike in Kentucky. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, the guy up in Canada, maybe ancient history, but and I think maybe you've changed since then, but I was looking through my favorites folder here. You used there for a time, I think you published the, whatever it is, like the telephone number, the 173.236.29.251, I think used to be your web address. I think that would be a good idea on RBN up there with those links, is to post something that people could cut and paste into their browser that would get around those filters if that guy's being filtered up there in Canada. And of course, there's all kinds of other tricks, virtual private network. One of the things I like to do is to go to like start page, and it offers a cache, so you can click on that and open in a new tab or whatever, and that may get around the filtering. I've played around sometimes and gotten tricks. I know in years past when you've had trouble with your web page, that was one of the things, is to use that.
Well,
it's called,
in this case, the filtering is being done at the web server level. There's no problem getting to the web page itself. The problem is apparently under orders from the government of Canada, the web page has now disconnected RBN.
Well, shouldn't you be able to go through a proxy server in another country like the start page uses? I did that at a library that was blocking a bunch of web pages. I went through and put it in their favorites folder with using proxy servers so people could still get to pages that were
You're
being
right.
blocked.
That might work. That might work if you have a proxy server that's outside of Canada. It might still work.
Yeah. Well, I know people used to do that. I haven't really played around with it much in years, but I seem to remember several years ago you had this problem with some stuff being blocked, and I think RBN at one point had a telephone company that was trying to block people from listening and trying to claim it was broadcasting or some stuff. I remember a caller from Florida that was trying to figure workarounds.
Yeah.
And this goes ancient history, but it still gets every now and then those old methods get brought back up to be used again. But I saw on a local auction the other day somebody auctioning what they called conspiracy notes, which was the two, 1963 $2 and $5 United States note that Kennedy issued to monetized silver stocks.
Yes.
And of course, a lot of people say that's what got him killed. But you just brought up Israeli nukes, and back during that time, they really wanted nuclear weapons, and they didn't want their Dimona reactor inspected. RBN posted a story within the last couple of weeks. I tried to read it all. It's very exhaustive with all kinds of hot links and rabbit trails asking that question. Did the Israelis kill the JFKs? And, of course, there's some question as to what was up with JFK Jr., but RFK certainly.
Certainly. Okay. But what you need to do is understand that major events like wars and assassinations never occur for just one reason and by one perpetrator. JFK had a lot of people who wanted him gone. Israel was one of them. The Federal Reserve was another. Organized crime was another. The CIA was another, and on and on. Anyway, listen, Mike, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. After just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And I just got an email from somebody with an alternative to radio.net, and it's called mytunerradio.com, and that's MYTUNER radio.com. And during the break, I brought it up on the browser and immediately was able to locate not just RBN, but my own show as well. And apparently it has apps for iPhone, Android, Roku, and Amazon devices. So that may be a way to go, and I've already forwarded this over to our technical wizard, and they may just replace that radio.net link. Okay, getting on back to the news here. The U.S. military has had a bit of a problem with sexual assaults, and we're trying to deal with it. But unfortunately, the number of assaults rose to more than 20,000 last year, about the same levels as 5 years ago when the Pentagon tried to start doing something about it. So the latest figures are included in an anonymous Pentagon survey conducted every 2 years that estimates the prevalence or rate of sexual assault in the military. And sexual assault is defined as rape, sexual assault, forcible sodomy, aggravated sexual contact, abusive sexual contact, or merely the attempts to commit those offenses. So for you parents with kids in military age, you might want to show that to them before they head down for that recruiting office. All right, let us now turn to our domestic politics. The sound and fury around William Barr is continuing. And apparently Barr has announced that there is going to be a probe into FBI spying on the Trump campaign. And that is probably a big reason for his horrible treatment before the Senate the other day. I mean, even accused criminals in court have a judge that will hold the prosecutors in check. Barr didn't have that. They just had him in that table and they just pounded on him as hard as they can. And yeah, they're afraid. Because if Barr were to actually do his job, backed up by President Trump, then some people are going to be in trouble. So right now, a lot of those deep staters, they're afraid. They're very much afraid. And that's why you have all these people out there saying, Barr has to resign, he's got to be impeached, we've got to get rid of him. And what it's about is Barr delivered the transparency Democrats demanded. And it wasn't enough, wasn't happy. It wasn't good enough for them. The New York Times has now confirmed there was a spy sent to meet Papadopoulos, a very curvy blonde. Other reports are saying honey trap, and we know what that means. We got to take a break here for station identification. We'll be right back after these few words.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. So we're talking about this revelation where the FBI sent this agent under false pretenses to meet with Papadopoulos in London. Now, she basically came on to him in a London bar, and she posed as a research assistant who wanted to discuss foreign policy with Papadopoulos. And apparently this woman used the cover name of Azra Turk. We don't have a real name on her just yet. And the feds learned absolutely nothing of value. But other newspapers are describing her as a honey trap. And now the New York Times is admitting the Obama administration deployed multiple spies, that's multiple spies, against the Trump campaign in 2016. And of course, this is after months of angry claims by prostitutes and correspondents and Democrats that no, the administration, Obama's administration never spied on Donald Trump's presidential campaign. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. Well, the New York Times yesterday admitted multiple overseas intelligence assets were deployed against associates of the Republican nominee. So this is getting big. And the FBI is not denying it. They're not denying it. Apparently, this woman's handler was intelligence asset and FBI informant Stephen Halper. Now, Halper was an FBI operative and a Cambridge professor who set the meeting up between this female agent and Papadopoulos. This is nasty, nasty stuff. Trump has already tweeted out, it's worse than Watergate, and he's absolutely right. And that's why those members on that Senate committee went after William Barr. The last thing they need is an attorney general who's going to want to actually do the job. Now, according to a former U.S. attorney, speaking with Andrea Mitchell, former Obama White House National Security Advisor Susan Rice was ordering spy agencies to produce detailed spreadsheets of surveilled telephone calls involving Donald Trump and his aides. Now, Rice has denied this, but the Daily Caller News Foundation investigative group has basically confirmed that, yes, it did happen, and she ordered it. Now, the latest cache of emails, we talked about this earlier in the week, the latest cache of 339 emails shows that Fusion GPS was directly feeding anti-Trump intelligence, much of it unverified, directly to Obama's Department of Justice. And over in Ukraine, their embassy confirms that a DNC contractor solicited Trump dirt back in 2016. So apparently, Ambassador Valerie Chaley's office says DNC contractor Alexandra Chalupa sought information from the Ukrainian government on Paul Manafort's dealings inside the country in the hopes of forcing the issue before Congress. Now, politics is a dirty business. Need no ghosts come from the grave to tell us that. But Obama definitely crossed a line. And I'm hoping that Trump is finally going to get those presidential brass knuckles on and start to do something about it. And it's not because I still like Trump. In fact, I'm very disappointed in him. But my concern here is the process. Now, Trump is saying, as of yesterday, that it's likely FBI Director James Comey led the effort to spy on his campaign back in 2016. And he stated that he intends to declassify the documents related to the controversial surveillance warrants pretty soon. Well, Donald, maybe not. Pretty soon sound kinds of vague. Declassify them now. All right, we're going to go back here to the phones here to Layla in Canada. Layla, welcome back to the show. Long time. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I don't know if you've discussed the declassified documents about Kennedy trying to get the Israelis to agree to an investigation of the Dimona nuclear plant in the spring and summer of 1963.
I'm familiar with them. We didn't mention them.
Well, there have been some declassified documents recently in the U.S., and all through the spring and summer of 1963, Kennedy was banging heads with Ben-Gurion and Levi Eshkol about investigating the Dimona plant because Kennedy was strongly opposed to nuclear proliferation.
Yes.
And I think it's ironic that Kennedy was assassinated in November of '63. I think there's a very strong link there. I think it's deductive reasoning on my part, and I suspect many people will think the same thing.
Yeah, I definitely think it was an issue. I definitely think it was an issue. But like I said before, wars and assassinations don't happen for just one reason or with one perpetrator. And Kennedy had made enemies of so many people. Israel was one of them over the nuclear issue. Organized crime, which had helped him steal the election from Nixon, felt that they were betrayed by him when he made Robert Kennedy the Attorney General and declared a war on organized crime. You had the military-industrial complex, who felt betrayed over the Vietnam issue. You had the CIA, which felt betrayed over the Bay of Pigs. And you had the Federal Reserve, which was angry with Kennedy for those United States notes.
All of these are linked to Israel. When we talk about organized crime, the top of the list is Israel. That is the most organized, globally organized crime. And a lot of these assassinations or killings that we see, first of all, Israel has long practiced mind control, and they always use Arab Jews or Mizrahi Jews to act as Arabs when they do a lot of these terrorist activities. But all of these, even though they appear to be disparate or different organizations, are basically managed and controlled by the Mossad and Shin Bet. All of the organized crime that we have in the U.S. ends up seeking protection in Israel when they're being prosecuted in their home countries. So there is no doubt that it was Israel. I mean, there may have been a lot of people who hated Kennedy for a variety of reasons, but nobody but Israel would have had the audacity and the ability to create and organize George H.W. Bush, who was in Dallas that day.
Yes.
Johnson, who later made a trip to Israel, smiling, and never mind Johnson's role in the 1973 shooting down of the USS Liberty, or the destruction of the USS Liberty. Johnson was strongly on board. As for Donald Trump, while he was campaigning, I got a funny thing occurred to me that the name Trump is actually Dutch in origin.
Mm-hmm.
So I did an online search in ancestry.ca
Yep.
and discovered that Trump's ancestors were TROMPS in Holland, many of whom were Jews. So Trump has always been a tool of the Zionists. It's not this notion of brass knuckles. If he ever puts them on, it'll be against the American people, not to protect the American people. Trump is a tool of Israel, and that is why the unqualified Jared Kushner is there, and his daughter, his unelected daughter,
Yes.
is there. I mean, the whole thing is so absurd. The fact that American people have allowed this is, I think, an indictment of the American public that has laid back for too long. It's too late. And by the way, 3 Days of the Condor, I didn't read the book, but I did see the movie.
Yes.
What happened was that that particular office where Robert Redford, the character, was working, actually uncovered one of the secret organization within the CIA that was plotting to control the world's oil supply.
Yes.
At the very end, Robert Redford says to a U.S. official, I'm going to go across the street to the New York Times and give them all my documents. And the U.S. official laughs at him. And he says, do you really think the American people give a damn? When they run out of oil, they want us to do anything we have to do and kill anybody we have to kill in order to provide them with the oil and the gas that they want. So it's not new, unfortunately.
Nope.
But anyway, if people just look for that declassified document, it is no coincidence that it was the spring and summer of '63, after a couple of years of Kennedy, or 1 year. It started in October of '62 that the Israelis were opposing any inspection of the Dimona nuclear plant.
Yeah, originally they
And,
lied about its purpose. I mean, originally they said it was, I think they said it was a fabric dyeing facility.
They said it was for peaceful purposes, just like Iran is saying now. That's why Israel knows Iran's shtick, because Iran is simply giving the same spiel that Israel gave. We're using this nuclear plant is strictly for peaceful purposes, blah, 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 blah.
Well, there's a difference
as for
between
the
Israel. There's a difference here between Israel and Iran, because Iran was subject to inspections. So it's
Well,
known.
Iran, yes, I agree. Iran did actually submit, but I mean, Iran could be. And by the way, it was France that helped Israel
Yes.
set up the Dimona nuclear plant. It was France who provided them with the nuclear grade plutonium. So it's kind of, we're basically already all puppets and property of the gang that runs Israel, and most abused and used are the deluded Israelis that are actually Celts and Slavs that converted to Judaism because it was such a trendy thing to do, and they thought they could get a share of the wealth.
Yep.
They're all part of. They're going to suffer the most in the end, because they were only tools. And the Bible, by the way, as you know, but many people don't know, was written, rewritten, redacted, and edited for centuries.
Yes.
In the after the time of Christ, assuming Christ actually existed.
Well, especially
as
at the Council of
a,
Nicaea. I mean, they basically took a meat axe to the original documents.
Well, I'm talking about the Old Testament.
Oh, okay.
The one that they're holding up, the one that the Israelis use as their, and there have been recent archaeological discoveries, by the way, that the ancient Canaanite DNA that was uncovered in the land of that is now Israel, they've done some DNA analysis of some of the mummies, and then they also tested some of the Lebanese, and they found 99 Lebanese still had the ancient Canaanite DNA present in modern Lebanese. So if it's present in modern Lebanese, you can imagine that it's present in many of the Palestinians. So
Absolutely.
that means even if there was an Israel kingdom under David, who was actually the grandson of a Moabite, and Solomon, who was actually the son of a Hittite woman, she married Uriah the Hittite. She would have been a Hittite herself. The whole thing is a fraud. The whole thing was fabricated by the Zionists to give them some excuse to seize control. And Britain and France cooperated because they also wanted control of the oil, not just the oil resources, but all the mineral wealth and access to India and all those other places, and to also steal the Suez. And Canada played a huge role with Lester Pearson and numerous other prominent Canadians coming under the influence of Louis Brandeis and Felix Frankfurter, who managed to control the so-called peace conference in Versailles in 1919. So it's tragic what has happened to us.
Yes.
But we who presumed we were better educated in previous decades were so gullible because we were entertained. We had lots of bread and tons of enjoyable circuses. And we had our self-indulgences, and we allowed it to happen. We did not exercise our discriminatory thinking patterns. And political parties are profoundly culpable. I don't know if you're aware, but the guy who ran Netanyahu's campaign,
yeah,
I think I told you this before, McNaughton, also ran the campaign for Stephen Harper, a rabid Zionist, and also for all the conservatives around the world. He has, so he's very skilled, and no doubt we have an election coming up in Canada. We have absolutely no choice. We have the poor little dimwit, the mentally challenged Justin Trudeau, or we have the horribly immoral Andrew Scheer, who's also a tool of Israel, or we have the NDP with Jagmeet Singh, who's, you know, it's tragic. It's whether it's Canada or the U.S., Trump needs to be overthrown. Trump needs to be, he has absolutely, I mean, the same thing even, I mean, any president. I don't know what the U.S. is going to do or what Canada is going to do. All I know is that I'm glad I will not have to live through too much more of it.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
I'm old enough that I hope. Yeah, yes. Well, I'm even older than you, so I'm just hoping that, that family history that I have, where of heart attacks, ticks in for me and I die quickly. I do not want to see what's coming. I do not want to live through it. Anyway, Mike, keep up the good work. Keep trying. Whatever. For those who listen, for whoever hears you, please spread the word to all your friends and resist. Resistance is no longer an option. It's either lay down or die or resist. And never will Trump ever do any of the things that he promised he was going to do. He is serving Netanyahu, his buddy.
Well, there was no surprise on that. I mean, back in 2016, Trump made it very clear he was very pro-Israel. And so, to be very honest, while we may be appalled at what's going on with Jared Kushner and West Bank annexation and moving the embassy to Jerusalem, it was certainly not unexpected that that was going to happen. Anyway, Layla, thank you very much for the phone call and the information. We're going to let you go. We're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. And back to the phones to Rick in Arizona. Aloha, Rick. I'm probably going to have to take you through the coming commercial break. What's on your mind?
Okay. How am I coming in now?
You sound great.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make a comment, couple points before Tom calls in and talks about Cuba. I think he's pretty what he's talking about is pretty accurate. One thing that I always thought about Cuba was they had to leave Castro in there to keep the mafia out of Cuba because of the money laundering situation that would develop with them controlling the island. And so they kept it was a love-hate relationship between Castro and the United States, because we didn't want their tobacco and their sugar to piss off our farmers here in America, but we couldn't allow free enterprise to take over into Cuba. That way the mob would rise up again with their hotels
Yes.
and their money laundering, and that's 90 miles off the coast of Florida. And we really could have knocked out Castro by noon on Friday with our military very easily. So Tom is right about pretty much all about Cuba, and I just want people to think the people.
Well, here's my
We left
question.
Castro
If
in
the
there.
U.S. military could have knocked out Castro, and they didn't really do a very good job at the Bay of Pigs, I have to point out, they could have put Batista back in, because, he survived. He bugged out. Anyway, Rick, stay on the line. We'll be right back after these few words.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold, arms and or legs often go to sleep, sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe, short walks cause cramping or pains in legs. Memory is not as good as it used to be, ankles swell late in the day, chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're talking with Rick in Arizona about Cuba. And there's one part of the narrative that I have a little issue with, and that was the fact that back then, as now, there was a good relationship between the U.S. government and organized crime. So this idea that they didn't want them to go back in there, I'm really not sure about that. It may have been about maximizing profits for Las Vegas, which would have maximized tax revenues for the U.S. government. But we know that the U.S. intelligence agencies actually enlisted organized crime both in World War II and in the campaign against Castro after the revolution.
Yeah, well, I can see what you're saying, but things change, and they didn't want Cuba to become a huge vault for organized crime cash. I mean, it's Batista was there with Lansky and Traficant, and when they overthrew Batista, they pushed those guys out of there. And I mean, this is just what I see as what happened is we left Castro in there to keep the mob out and to keep the embargo there, so there was no trade, where we keep our farmers happy, and to keep the Department of Treasury happy. And as far as Leah and her conversation, she's a very wise woman. I've always been in the camp. I thought it was I think it's the Monacan Begin gang that pulled off the Kennedy hit.
Yeah.
And as far as Trump goes, Trump, if you lived in Manhattan in the 80s and 90s, let's say you worked, on Wall Street or a hospital in Manhattan in the 80s, it was common knowledge that Trump was a laundry machine for the Kosher Nostra. And the Kosher Nostra is the most vicious mafia in a pair of shoes. All you got to do is go back and read how they operated in New York City in the 20s and 30s, and you will see why nobody will testify against these people. When they were, they prey on their own. I mean, they would go into merchants who were Jewish, and they would extort them for payments for protection. And if they get too uppity, in order to let the neighborhood know they meant business, they were famous for pouring acid into the eyes of the wife of the merchant and blind her for life.
Yes.
So the people in New York, it's true, a lot of the Jews in New York did not vote for Trump because a lot of the Jews in New York know who these people are. Okay? So they are Russian in ethnicity. Bugsy Siegel and Meyer Lansky are ethnically Russian Jews. So
Yes.
when they talk about the Russians all the time, the media is just trying not to say the word Jews. Okay? There's a lot of coding with the media.
Yes.
But that lady that calls in is very well educated. She knows what she's talking about. And thank you for taking my call.
All right, I'm going to thank you very much. We're going to let you go here. And when the Castro revolution succeeded and Batista and his people were forced to bug out to Florida, it wasn't so much a case of the mafia being driven out of Cuba. They no longer had a reason to stay because they understood that Castro was going to basically nationalize the casinos. He was going to, the hotels rather, and he was going to shut down the gambling and the donkey shows. And so Cuba stopped being a profit center. And so the organized crime went back to the U.S., went back out to Las Vegas, and continued as usual. Okay, we're going to take another phone call. James in North Carolina. Aloha, James. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hi, Mike. I guess there's always some good and some bad that comes out of everything that gets disclosed. And one thing I'm starting to get a sinking feeling is that with what has happened with the Mueller report and what Attorney General Barr is hopefully going to do in investigating this Spygate, is that it might generate a huge sympathy vote in the election for Trump and carry him through to a second term, which I think would be a disaster. You've enumerated.
Well, that depends on who's running against him. And like I said, at this point, the only way I would support Trump in 2020 is if Hillary's running on the Democratic ticket. And I think she's going to step in. She's working too hard to keep her face in front of the TV audience these days.
Yeah. I was hoping that we might see some primary challenges to Trump. I can only think of maybe a small handful of challengers that could come out of the Congress. I'm thinking maybe Senator Mike Lee
Well, there's already one. I forget
congressman.
his name, but there's already one primary challenger to Trump.
Who is that?
I don't recall his name off
You
the
don't?
top of my head.
Well, the only other one I was thinking, other than the Senator Lee, would be our own Congressman Mark Meadows. But there may be a few. I mean, a very few others that might come out of the Congress, and you know, you can possibly even think of Ann Coulter. I don't know how that would go over. I think she would have a lot of resistance.
Yeah, I think
Look
so
at
too.
her.
Anyway,
But,
listen, James, we got to let you go. Got to take another break for commercials. Back with another phone call after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
They're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? I've always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. And I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the 7 seas, yeah, I want to be a pirate.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And one of our alert listeners emailed me, and the primary challenger for Donald Trump going into 2020 is former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld. who has basically announced, and he's definitely on the warpath against Donald Trump, following the release of the Mueller report, basically sided with those saying it's got to be a cover-up, it's got to be a cover-up. So he's definitely going to be making a lot of noise going into 2020. All right, back to the phones here. Tom in Florida, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Michael. Before I get to your last caller, I got some great news for you. You might even think of one about moving. In the great state of Florida here, our governor signed a bill today that there'll be no more sanctuary cities, Michael. No more sanctuary cities in the state of Florida. In other words, the government will be doing their job here in this state. Now, I don't know about your state or all those other leftist states like California, and which is actually Mexifornia, and all those other leftist states where everybody who has a sanctuary backing should be arrested.
Yes.
They're breaking the laws of this country, and they should be arrested. Now, to your last caller, he has a hard-on for Trump, but let me tell you, who does he want, Elizabeth Warren? Or does he want a liberal socialist like Bernie who's vacationing in Russia? No, I don't think so. I think Trump is the one guy that's actually exposing the immigration invasion of our country, because no other Republican or Democrat would have done that. Matter of fact, Mitt Romney could have won the election. He was talking about Russia the whole time when he was running against Barry Soetoro Husseini Obama, who was backed by Reverend Jeremiah Wright and the great, wonderful Louis Farrakhan, who Snoop Doggy's out there saying he's the greatest thing since apple butter, peanut butter. You got Snoop Poopy Doggy out there talking about how great Farrakhan. Well, why don't Snoop Poopy Doggy go live that in Africa with all his money? Snoop Poopy racist Snoop
Okay,
Dogg is a racist, and Farrakhan.
Tom, can we tone down the rhetoric just a little bit?
Hey, Michael.
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
you know,
Trump
the
is
pejoratives
trying,
the pejoratives are starting to annoy me.
You know, Trump is trying to do something for this country when it comes to stopping all this insanity. He's like, he's the one exposed. I don't ever remember any president, Michael, that ever called out George Soros. Have you? I can't remember.
Nope.
You haven't. So Donald Trump has called out George Soros. He's called out the deep state. And I'm going to ask you this, Michael, and I'll hang up in a minute. Last night I was listening to John Stadmiller's show, and I want you to answer me this. I was listening to John's show yesterday, and it was a very powerful message he brought out. And he had a bunch of clips about all this, these 1,200 rabbis who are backing the immigration invasion of Europe.
Yes.
And they're backing the immigration invasion of the United States. Now, John had that on his show, and I heard it on his tapes that he was playing. And he was talking about how there's a lady in Sweden named Barbara or something, and she wants the illegal invasion of the Muslims into Sweden with all those blondes over there. And I'm like, wait a minute. You know, John's hitting a massive home run here out of the stadium, because what he's playing on those tapes was these – now, they're 2% of the population, mind you, Michael. But they're controlling our immigration laws in this country and in Europe. How can this be if they're only 2% of this United States population, and they're dictating to our government in Washington how many illegals we can take in here and who could come in here, and the same thing's going on for Europe. So my point is, if John's got that tape that I heard on his show, which is very, very powerful, that they're literally saying we are going to be dictating your immigration policies, Christians. We're going to dictate how your government's run in Europe and you run in the United States. What does that tell you, Michael, about what happened in World War II?
Yeah. No, there's no question about that. It's no secret that Israel's influence over our media, our banking, our political system.
Hollywood.
Yes. Definitely, I saw that one firsthand. It's just iron tight, and that's just the way that they like it. Now, as far as Trump accomplishing things, great that he called out George Soros. Great that he's talking about trying to close that border. But he came into office, he campaigned on a bunch of things that he flatly has not delivered on. And I don't know about you, but I am getting really tired of pinning hopes for a better country on these candidates who come out here every 4 years, because we never get it. And when you reach my age, you begin to understand. It's always the same promises. We're going to get out of the war. We're going to lower taxes. We're going to fix the infrastructure. And it just doesn't happen. And so I'm very unenthusiastic about 2020. I can't seem to whip up any kind of energy to say, yeah, we're going to go with this candidate or that candidate. The only thing that will get me motivated to support Donald Trump is if Hillary comes in on the other side, because I absolutely do not want to see that woman in the White House.
I totally agree with you, Michael, but let me ask you. Michael, you heard the other day what Donald Trump said about Robert E. Lee? You hear that statement?
I missed that.
Okay. Donald Trump was basically saying, because Robert E. Lee in the Civil War, and I studied the Civil War quite intently, Robert E. Lee was a great general. That's what Trump said.
Yes.
However, he meant to say that in the context that if Robert E. Lee wouldn't have done what he did in 1865, you would have had a guy that would have been running the Southern armies. His name was Nathan Bedford Forrest. Are you familiar with him?
Yes, I am.
You know he never lost a battle, correct?
Correct.
He never lost a battle. And if you want me to tell you what Robert E. Lee did in 1865 with Grant, I believe it was Ulysses S. Grant, I can't remember another general offhand, and he actually is one that said we got to end this now, because actually Jefferson Davis, I believe, was going to have put Bedford Forrest in charge of the Southern armies. And if that would have happened, that war would have been protracted for another 20 years. Familiar with that, Michael?
It certainly would have gone. Well, I'm not entirely sure of that, mostly because the Confederate economy was totally collapsed. They had literally run out of money, and they were being supported by the European banking families who hated Lincoln's greenbacks, but even their support was starting to dry up. Anyway, listen, Tom, got to let you go, and we're going to switch over here to Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Like I said, Mike, the end of the summer, I'm going to push it to the end of the year. If nothing's fixed by the end of the year, Tom, are you still going to support Trump? Now, if Trump runs against, Bernie Sanders or something, like, everybody going to stay home? Like I said,
Probably
Mike,
I am. I've reached the point of just saying I'm not going to vote anymore because it just seems to encourage the bastards.
It's fool me once, fool me twice, fool me a dozen times. Like I said, what's changed? Nothing. It's a ping pong match, back and forth, back and forth. Nothing's changed. We're in the middle of the ping pong match.
Actually, things are changing, but they're all changing for the worse.
Oh yeah, well that's because of the system is rotten, is showing its wear. That's why. Unstoppable now. Hey, Mike, I wanted to talk about. I was watching France 24, and they were talking about 5G, and all of a sudden, the one guy, because they're all started hating on China, he just came out and says, "Belt in the road. It's about the belt in the road." I'm like, holy crap! This guy's he's anti-China, but he was saying that's basically he said what this 5G and this whole battle against China is about. It's about the belt in the road.
Yes.
Mike, he came out and said China invested $1 trillion or $2 trillion in the Belt and Road, and he actually says the U.S. and the West don't have the money to do this. This is like their version of the Marshall Plan.
Yes.
Of the Belt and the Road, and I was blown away by that because that's what it's all about: economics.
That's
the West
right.
is dying, China is
It's about
rising,
marketplaces. It's about manufacturing and marketplaces, and yes, the United States and Europe don't have the resources to build a system that can compete with the Belt and the Road. The U.S. and Europe basically sort of relied on the fact that there was this big swath of ground that isolated Asia from the West, and obviously there was cargo ships and so forth, but it put limits on commerce between the Asian manufacturing countries and the West and kept the profitability shifted in our favor. That's all about to go away. The Belt and the Road is going to dramatically change the way the world does business. And yeah, that's really what all this hostility is about.
And also, China's going from a manufacturing outsourcing country to internal consumption economy. like we are, but they got 1.2 billion people.
Yes,
Their
they do.
middle class is our entire country's population. They got all new infrastructure. They built ghost cities brand new. Our cities are rotting away here. Like, I mean, there's nothing fixing them at all. You know, I talked about this a year. Like, nothing is fixed in Chicago or Detroit. Those factories are still sitting there.
Yep.
You know, I don't. Do you think they'll ever be like redone, or they'll just be sitting there forever? Right.
That's going to be for future generations to take care of. But right now, the United States is basically going down the same road as the Soviet Union, bankrupting itself with military spending that doesn't provide anything of any value to the ordinary people.
And which leads me, if I still got time, to talk about, you had a previous caller about the Venezuelan oil because they want to attack Iran. Mike, you said it a couple days ago, it's about the petrodollar. Look, Venezuela's got that's heavy crude.
Yes.
That's dirty oil. So that's got to be shipped out to Texas. Has 2 refineries by the Koch brothers that's their expertise is in dirty oil, like the tar sands going, through the what's that pipeline? The XL Keystone pipeline.
The Keystone,
I believe, from the tar sands. Yeah, but like, I don't think this is all about, like you said, the petrodollar, because the world's moving away from they're all trading in their own currencies. All these tariffs are making them trade in their own currencies, avoid using the dollar. It needs to be propped up. That's why they need Iran's oil and Venezuela's oil to trade them in the dollar, right?
Yes.
Pretty much that's it.
That's pretty much it. I mean, that was the whole point of that plan that Wesley Clark blew the whistle on all those years ago, to take control of the Middle East oil-producing countries and make sure that their oil was traded only for the U.S. dollar. I mean, a year before we invaded Iraq, Saddam Hussein got permission from the United Nations to sell Iraq's oil for the euro instead of the dollar. And Tony Blair flew out to Texas. They had a meeting with George Bush. And then a year later, screaming weapons of mass destruction, they went on in, lynched Saddam Hussein, and Iraq's oil is back on the world market only for the U.S. dollar. Same thing with Muammar Gaddafi down in Libya, where he wanted to have the gold dinar be the currency of choice for buying Libya's oil. And so they went on in there and they killed him, trying to send this message out to the rest of the world. You will stay obedient to the petrodollar. But more and more countries are saying no, and it's being led by Russia and China, who are not as afraid of the U.S. invading, mostly because we've done such a poor job of it in Iraq and Syria and Afghanistan and Libya. And the world is shifting. The world is changing dramatically. China's on the way up. Russia's on the way up. The United States is on the way down.
And Mike, real quick, before I get off the phone, did you hear what Meghan McCain said? She said that Moscow is the city of Satan. I'm like, I thought she should have said Washington, D.C. is the city of Satan, and her father is one of Satan's minions. Like, why would you come out and say that? Like, I mean, even his daughter is sick. I mean, they're all sociopaths. I mean, they must go to a school of sociopaths. You know, I don't get it.
Well,
you know,
remember when Reagan described the Soviet Union as the evil empire? I mean, it's just more rhetoric. But again, it's demonstrable that the belligerence against both Russia and China is building to a peak. And I think it's a big mistake.
Yep, U.S. should join the Belt and Road, or otherwise they're going to be left behind. Even Britain.
We're out of position.
On the wall.
We're out of position. That's the big problem. Okay, I mean, there is some container shipping that's going to be associated with Belt and Road, especially with China enlarging the locks on the Panama Canal. They're going to be building those containers even bigger than they have been. But there is really no place where the United States can plug into that Belt and Road unless they want to build a highway and a bridge across the Aleutians and come down inside China, and they don't have the money to do that. That's the real threat here. It means that it's going to be far easier for the rest of the world to buy their products from Asian factories than to buy them from here in America.
Oh, yeah, Mike, and you know that defense secretary in Britain? He was fired a couple days ago?
Yeah.
They told him to sit down and shut up, just like he told Russia to do, remember, a year before that? He actually leaked out where Britain was going to go ahead with working with China on partial of the 5G network. He actually leaked that report out. That's why they fired him the other day, the British defense secretary.
Yes.
That was the reason. That's it, Mike. Have a good rest of the show.
All right, thanks an awful lot. And we're going to go to Sherry in Texas. Aloha, Sherry. I'm probably going to have to take you through the commercial break. What's on your mind?
Well, okay, thanks. Probably not, because I have a thunderstorm closing on me. Listen, this has to do with Trump making good his promises when people would like him to. I don't think people can be strictly departmentalized because of what they do or because of who they do business with. They are who they are in their own right and in their own intent and purpose. And affiliations, I think, are part of Trump's success. They're very important. And I'm sorry, but he has a heart. I'm going to stick with that. He has a plan, and I don't think we'll be sorry. If he did what people wanted him to do now, he'd be dead, Mike. That's what I think. So I'm sticking with everything I feel about him. He's got a good heart, and we're not going to be sorry. And I'm just staying right there.
Okay.
And I better hang up.
All right. Well, thank you very much here. And again, we have had courageous presidents in the past in this country. And yes, some of them have paid a terrible price for being courageous. It's like when Andrew Jackson shut down the Second Bank of the United States. They tried to kill him.
No.
And Lincoln's assassination probably had as much to do with the greenbacks as it did anything else. We're going to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. By Christine, great for heart palpitations. By Ann, before I started using this product, every afternoon my ankles and my hands would be swollen. That doesn't happen anymore. So if that part of their advertising is true, I have to assume that the rest of it is also. Not to mention that when I had my yearly blood test, only a few weeks after beginning to use this product, my cholesterol had dropped over 30 points. I'm going to continue to take it. By Croc, I love this product. It really works. By Brad, works great, thank you. Tell us your story. Get your Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go back to the phones to Steve Elkins. Steve, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, I don't share Sherry's optimism and hope for Donald Trump. I believe in the three strikes rule, and I hung out for a while there, hoping also, and that Donald Trump would do what he said he would do on his campaign trail. And I'm very discouraged, very frustrated, and upset with this guy that we all believed in because of the alternative of Hillary Rodham Clinton. I'm sure that's pretty much how he got in, because of the alternative. But I think Layla hit a home run today with her description of Donald Trump, who this man really is. He's not working for us. We've been bamboozled. We've been lied to. We've been cheated. And I don't want the guy back in 2020. That's for sure. I don't want him back in 2020. So, I mean, he's doing the same old plan: regime changes, nation building. If Sherry could answer that she's okay with what's going on in Venezuela now, this illegal coup, then I'd have to question her agenda myself, because it's quite obvious it is illegal what is going on over there and in Syria and everything they keep doing. And he just goes along. He just goes along with the plan. So how is that good for America? It's not at all.
No, it isn't. It's good for the military-industrial complex. It's good for the bankers, but it's bad for pretty much everybody else. I just got an email to Tom and all the ever-Trumpers. Donald Trump's mouth is not going to save this country. Only his actions will. I think that sums it up very well. I would almost paraphrase that to say that Donald Trump's tweets are not going to save this country.
Agree. That's it. Voice my opinion. I just hope an opportunity is lost. I think we just got to ride this one out and hope that maybe 2020 brings us something better. Much better.
Well, you know, I empathize with Layla's comment. You know, thank goodness I'm not going to have to live with this that much longer.
Yeah.
Because I'm an old guy.
Yeah. I appreciate it, Mike. Have a great weekend.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go here. And boy, 2 hours have gone by and I'm way behind on my talking points. Article coming out of Press TV: Biden is the U.S. establishment's great white hope to stop Sanders and the progressives. And this is according to Daniel Patrick Welch, who's an American writer and political analyst. And he's based in Boston, Massachusetts. He made the remarks in an online interview with Press TV on Thursday when asked if it is evident that Biden will win the 2020 U.S. election. And Daniel came back saying, I don't think it's at all clear that Biden can win. He can only get the nomination by massive interference and manipulation of the process. In other words, another Hillary. But the U.S. oligarchy is desperate to stop Sanders or anybody who's talking socialism right now because they want to keep on looting the country. And they see anybody who might get in the way of that as a threat. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Mike Gravel, so forth and so on. He is the Hillary Clinton of this election campaign. Okay, there's the music. We're going to take a break now for station identification. Back with hour number 3 and the lovely Lady Claire after these few words.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. And the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And before we get to the lovely Lady Claire, we have a caller on the line, Mark in North Carolina. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, I just want to disagree with that woman also. That she kind of says Trump's really a good man and means best, but there's nothing he can do. There's plenty he could do. He should have cleaned house the minute he became president. He should have fired Comey along with the others.
Mm-hmm.
He should have fired every U.S. attorney in the country and replaced them. Not only that, he shouldn't rely on the Secret Service for his protection. There's nothing in the Constitution that says you need to rely on the Secret Service.
No, there isn't, but he does have his own private security detail that supposedly works with the Secret Service protective detail. And by the way, if my memory serves, Trump actually did fire James Comey.
Yeah, but he didn't fire him right away. He should have fired him the second he got in.
Agreed.
Yes.
To Clapper and Brennan. But as far as the Secret Service goes, he could use people from the military instead to protect him, people he could trust. I don't think he can trust everybody in the military, but they're certainly more trustworthy than the Secret Service, who I believe probably were in on the murder of JFK back in '63.
Oh, there's no question about that.
Yeah.
There's that famous James Alkins photo where the Secret Service is riding in the car ahead of Kennedy's car, and as the gunshots ring out, they just stay right there, and one of them's just grinning ear to ear.
Yeah, they're all tied in together, these government agencies.
Well, same thing happened to Indira Gandhi. She was killed by her protective detail.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But the thing is this: you got to realize that the military is a little bit different. They're more down to earth. They're not quite, tied into the bureaucracy the way the others are, except maybe the top generals and stuff like that. And I think he'd be better off even today is getting some good soldiers in there, people who know what they're doing, people who have who also do security, like MPs, special forces, whatever, and using them. And if Tulsi Gabbard...
Well, there's the other aspect of it, and that has to do with image. The reason the Secret Service detail is the way it is, they're trying to be low-key about it in order that Trump does not go out in public looking like he's afraid of being shot at. And I recall during the 2016 campaign, there was one time where it was obvious he was wearing a bulletproof vest, and he got ragged on pretty heavily about that, and he let it go away. If he surrounds himself with all these armed military, it sends a very, very different message. Anyway, Mark, we're going to let you. Mark, we're going to let you go here, and we're going to take one more phone call and then get to the Lady Claire. Tom in Utah, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I have sympathy for everybody with their attitudes or opinions on D.C., but the best way to understand Donald Trump's dilemma is to spend time there. I spent, 6 months of my life in 3 years out there and see the evil you have to put up with. And I think he's being very wise in agreeing with the enemy while he's in the way with him. My heart goes out to Donald Trump or anybody that's actually trying to do anything of value in D.C. Because there is such an evil force out there. You don't know who your friend is. You don't know who your enemy is.
Yeah.
And that's the reality.
Okay, well, Tom, thanks an awful lot for that insight here. And, I've never actually been to Washington, D.C. It is on my bucket list.
Okay.
I would like to go over to the National Archives and take a look at the original Declaration of Independence.
Oh, that would be lovely.
Purely for personal family reasons. And, of course, the Air and Space Museum, because I understand stuff I actually worked on back in the 70s is now on display there.
Your birds are there. They're home.
And that's going to make me feel really, really old.
Let's do that.
I remember that piece right there. I worked on it. That's mine. Oh, look at that.
Okay.
You young kids, pay attention. Okay, so.
Well, I found out it was not smart for me to be there because my enemies found me. And they thought, they made you think they were your friend until you turned your back.
Well, that's what politicians do.
My prayers are out for Donald Trump. I think he is our King Cyrus, best we can find. I sat face to face with Hillary. I felt like I wanted to take a bath with Santa Flush after I left her.
Dear.
Yeah.
That's got to be a terrible feeling.
That's got to be
Santa Flush.
Tom,
Whoa.
we're going to let you go. Thank you for the phone call. And for those of you watching on YouTube, this gorgeous creature sitting next to me is the lovely Lady Claire. And Lady Claire, what is the first thing that you want to talk about?
Oh, I want to talk about some people who do not like the independent media very much. And the title of this article at the top of Blacklisted News, I strongly suggest that those of our readers and listeners who haven't seen it, it's blacklistednews.com. Apparently, there is an organization in Florida called the Poynter Institute, and it's about, allegedly, journalism. It is heavily financed by George Soros. And, Mike, do we want to do that shout-out
Yeah,
first,
we'll do the
maybe?
shout-out to our on-air affiliates rejoining the network. And I'm frankly not surprised to find out the Poynter Institute is financed by George Soros because Soros is definitely the enemy of accurate, independent news reporting because it's getting in the way of his dreams of a one-world empire.
Yes, and of course, how many illegal immigrants who may be ill or impoverished Americans will he take in to his own place?
I would imagine probably not much. And he's got a big place. You should hunt it down on Google Earth.
It's gorgeous.
It's got lots of room.
And what this article says is that blacklistednews.com made this list, and it was said to be about unreliable news organizations that they'd like to see demonetized and blacklisted from
and
the
by the
internet.
way, we made the list.
At number
WhatReallyHappened.com
500.
made the list.
And I thought when I saw that, I was having a palm to forehead moment at that time. And one thing that the writer at Blacklisted News said is that they are looking for other ways to monetize, and other than banner advertising. And the way that he phrased this was, "This isn't over by a long shot." And then they went to a cached list of sites George Soros, SPLC, and Proper Not, and other establishment propaganda pushers would like for you to not be able to visit.
And we're on Southern Poverty Law Center's list as well here.
Yeah.
The real problem that's going
Mhm.
on is there is now a campaign to convince online advertisers not to do business with the independent media.
Right. And we're dealing with that a little bit here.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're
Yep.
dealing with that a little bit here.
Mhm.
Frankly, we need an angel to put a big chunk of cash into our operation here, or I'm going to have to sell Claire for medical
I
experiments.
beg your pardon. I don't think so.
Yes, dear. Anything you say, dear.
Okay, and apparently a former journalist and writer by the name of Barbara Allen signed off on this, which is interesting enough because it does echo the Soros list. Both of them got retracted as of today.
Yeah, well, there was a huge
Yeah,
backlash.
Yeah. And I'm going to speak directly to Miss Allen. May I call you Barbie as a term of disendearment? Who was, please, the researcher who, wallowing comfortably in their own ignorance, listed WRH as a conspiracy site? I mean, lady, come on, playing fast and loose with the facts. You have tarred a lot of our brother and sister bloggers with the same brush. And payback will be interesting.
Well, I
And
don't
Mike,
know how much payback there's actually going to be. I mean, the Soros has got lots of money. The
Mhm.
corporate media is definitely
Mhm.
on his side because we're cutting into their audience.
oh, I know, and
I'm-
into their profit line.
Ever since the Mueller
Yeah,
report has
yeah.
come on out, CNN and MSNBC's numbers have just
Tanked.
gone right into the Al Qaeda.
Yep. So I have to wonder, and I'm calling this lady out, but in a nice way, okay? Precisely what was the database they used to come up with this ham-fistedly, pig-headedly idiotic characterization of the site?
I think basically they just went out and got a bunch of other lists
Yeah,
that
yeah.
had already been compiled, including that ridiculous one from the New York Times
Mhm.
that they had to retract as well.
Yeah. Now, Miss Allen should be able to tell our readers and listeners, as they deserve to know, by way of what means these sites were selected as double plus ungood.
Because we don't
Yeah.
push the official line here.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at the list, and it wasn't just conspiracy.
Mhm.
We were listed under the category of rumor, which strikes me as very weird.
Yeah.
Because everything that we post on whatreallyhappened.com
Mhm.
has a hard link back to the source.
Yeah, so there is no question that we do check our facts very intensely. And as a former journalistic professional, and Barbie, you lost any shred of credibility you ever had when you joined this bunch, you will remember perhaps the 5 interconnected precepts of real journalism: who, what, when, where, and why. Now, if you are not capable of doing this, which I think may be the case, it's going to be a very long time before Poynter gets its reputation back, other than in shreds, because of all this. So I am really confused here, as Mike just said. Every link we put up is hard linked to the source, so there can be absolutely no question as to attribution. And so, Barbie, can you or your alleged researchers in the databases they use find one article in the last 20 years, which either of us have posted, and call it conspiracy? Now, I challenge you to do this, my dear.
Well, basically,
Barbie.
it depends on how you define a conspiracy.
Yeah,
Now, there's the
yeah.
legal definition, which is
Mhm.
2 or more people getting together and
Mhm.
conspiring
Mhm.
to engage in illegal activity.
Mhm.
But today, the definition has sort of been mutated and
Mhm.
morphed to
Yeah.
simply apply a broad brush to
Yeah.
any reporting that is not in compliance with the official story.
Right,
Okay,
right.
so if you question the government on 9/11, oh,
Mhm.
conspiracy.
Yeah.
If you question the government on TW 800, conspiracy.
Mhm.
And by the way, the phrase conspiracy theorist was
Mhm.
created by the CIA in
Yeah.
the wake of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy
Mhm.
as a way of trying to dismiss
Mhm.
those who were seeing the obvious flaws in the official story without having to, address their questions.
Right. And I want to speak a little more to Barbie and again ask, show us the article that was not linked back to the source. We don't write conspiracy. We report facts in the most useful way possible for our readers and listeners. Now, we're equal opportunity smiters, I think, and we have regularly scolded both the Democrats and Republicans when we understand they are not serving the best interests of we the people. Now, there is an interesting timing issue here that I noticed. you, Barbie, came on board at this institute about a year ago when the Democrats believed they could actually smell blood in the water regarding the totally fabricated Trump-Russia collusion investigations. And they were going full bore to try to destroy him or have him impeached. But now the sandal is on the other foot, is it not, Barbie? With the following very credible accusations. I think, Mike, you may have covered a couple of these.
We covered
All
this
right.
one. That's the New York Times
Yeah.
admits multiple
Mhm.
spies
Yeah.
were deployed
Mhm.
by Obama's FBI.
And I have another revelation for
Okay.
you. Apparently, former U.S. Attorney Susan Rice ordered spy agencies to produce detailed spreadsheets involving Trump. Now, Barbie, the excrement
Let's
is
go a little
about
easy on the volume
to
on
hit
Barbie.
the ventilation
You're pegging
shaft,
the needles
sorry,
over here.
exposing every foul thing done or said against President Trump during the campaign and after.
I certainly hope that's going to be true.
Yeah, and unless you steadfastly believe that brown is the new black and have no objection to getting caught up in a huge tsunami of fecal matter, you just might want to consider leaving Poynter.
Oh, I'm sure she's very well paid to be there.
Oh, I know. And the funny thing is that at the end of the day, this banned by Barbie is about to have the banned in Boston effect. And you would understand that. You were a journalist at one point, right? This being banned by Barbie is about to have the polar opposite effect than the one that you and the Sorosistas wanted to see happen.
Well, over on Fox News a little earlier, they were actually reporting on the fact that Facebook, once again, has gone on a rampage against independent broadcasters like
Watson and Alex Jones.
Alex Jones,
Yeah.
InfoWars, Farrakhan. And if it's appearing on the TV, if it's being reported on the TV, that's going to get people to say, oh, I want to find out what's going on over there.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to say, Barbie, that I am thoroughly amazed that you and your brother and sisters Sorosistas did not see this coming or think your strategy through to its logical conclusion.
What they underestimated
Yeah.
is the fact that the American people have awakened.
Yes.
Everything that they're doing
Yeah.
is stuff that worked back in the 1950s and 1960s
Mhm.
when the American people were very naive
Mhm.
and trusting and believed what the TV and the politicians told them.
Mhm.
Those days are now gone.
Yeah.
And so everybody is looking at something like this, like, oh, this website is being banned.
Yep.
Gee, I wonder what's over there that is such a threat.
Yeah, and I will tell you, Barbie, readership will increase, ad revenues will go up every time something like this happens.
Well, not the ad revenues, because the whole point of these banning lists is they're literally going to the ad agencies, the online advertisers,
Yeah.
and saying, you don't want your brand tarnished by these people. Really, these are terrible. You shouldn't be advertising. And it is. It's an economic hardship.
Yeah, it is. And at some point, I think this will turn around.
I would like
against
to see
people.
it turn around.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I know.
And it's very tiring and frustrating.
Yep. Mhm.
Not to mention, we're broke.
Yes. Another thing that needs to be looked at here, federal judge sides with federal government, rules massive surveillance can remain secret. Now, this comes to us from The Mind Unleashed by Derek Brose. And despite just this abundance of public information detailing the U.S. government's secret warrantless mass surveillance programs, a federal judge has blocked a lawsuit claiming that revealing any details would threaten national security. A federal judge has ruled that the federal government can assert state secrets privilege to keep details of the warrantless mass surveillance program secret. Now, this came from U.S. District Judge Jeffrey White and brings an end to a legal battle that's lasted for more than a decade as 5 Americans sought to reveal the full scope of the controversial spying program. The plaintiffs have been represented by the Electronic Frontier Foundation, EFF, since 2008, since before whistleblower Snowden leaked classified files revealing the NSA's massive spying apparatus. And the judge apparently agreed with the arguments made by the Jay, that revealing any details as to whether the government collected the 5 plaintiffs' internet and phone data would threaten national security. I guess that's who we all are now, threats to national security.
That's exactly right. If
Hello.
you're thinking, you're a threat to national
I'm a
security. If you value
musician.
your privacy, you're a threat to national
Yeah.
security. If you question vaccines, you're a threat to national security.
Yeah. So color me completely unsurprised by this one. And as you mentioned, Paul Joseph Watson, Laura Loomer, Milo Yiannopoulos, and were just unpersoned by Facebook in their latest purge. Labels, and they were labeled dangerous individuals, banned for life. And Mark Dice made the observation at his Twitter feed. It's beyond anti-American. It's truly Orwellian. And,
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Now, these people can be wrong, and Alex frequently does get sorry, Alex, I know you're a brother blogger. Occasionally, you miss the window, but is deplatforming these people the answer? I would say, heck no.
Absolutely not.
You
I
know.
mean, in a nation that values freedom of speech,
Yeah.
which
Mhm.
right now that First Amendment is under attack from all corners.
Yeah, 24/7, guys.
Corporate
I'm not-
media,
Yeah.
Facebook, Google,
Yeah.
Israel.
Yep.
They want us to sit down and shut up. Okay, we got to take a break for commercials.
Okay.
We will be right back.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And once again, of course, RBN and WhatReallyHappened.com are holding our hands out and saying that without your support, and we mean a lot of support, we're not going to be here much longer.
Yeah.
That's really what it's coming on down to. And like we reported earlier in the hour, we're under attack. They're going after the advertisers.
Yep.
And that means we have to be dependent on you, the listeners, to basically donate all that you can so that we can move forward. So the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation or pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1 during business hours, extension 3 at all other times. Okay, so Claire, let's go back to what you want to talk about.
Yeah, this comes to us from Zero Hedge. Again, a very sober and intelligent site. I have invited them on the radio show, haven't heard back, but I would love for one of their representatives to come. And they had today, excuse me, coup failure necessitates a new policy. Bolton, the stash, is pushing for war.
Yes, he is.
And after the failed coup attempt, at least some people recognize the reality that the government of Venezuela has significant popular support. So when the coup failed, there's going to be a new policy. Unfortunately, the guy at the head of this is John Bolton. John, I've never met a war I didn't love and want the U.S. to get hooked up in. This guy scares the heck out of me. Now, what you see in a lot of the mainstream media, particularly cable, that they are working in favor of regime change in Venezuela. And they even avoid to call the intended coup a coup. Well, folks, if that wasn't a failed coup, I don't know what is. And many U.S. journalists who write on South America are, let's say, their perceptives may be a little bit off. And there was a gentleman and a lady who wrote, Anthony Faiola and Mariana Zuinga, in today's Washington Post. And there was a pro-government rally on Wednesday next to Miraflores, the presidential palace, and it drew about 500 people, far fewer than the multiple rallies of thousands of people supporting Guaido. And
that is the flat-out reverse of what's going on down there.
And if you take a look at the Photoshopped, cropped,
the non-Photoshopped,
and then you compare it with the non-Photoshop, you will be blown away by the size of this pro-government crowd, which is massive.
Yeah, I saw that photo earlier in the day.
Yeah,
and again, this is the same propaganda that we get fed to us every time the U.S. wants to invade a country. Oh, the leader is hated. His people don't want him.
Yeah.
I remember back the last time they were trying to whip up support for going into Iran.
Right.
And they showed this huge crowd, this rally, and said, you know, this is a rally demanding that Ahmadinejad step down. And then when you saw the uncropped version, there was Ahmadinejad waving at the crowd.
Yeah.
It was a crowd that was supporting him.
Yeah.
But then we know the Washington Post lies.
Yes.
That's why we call it the Washington Compost.
Yes, yeah. And that Elliot Abrams, the supposed regime changer in chief regarding Venezuela, thought that Tuesday's lamentable excuse for a coup would work, makes me kind of question how the heck did he get there, and what kind of magical thinking process was he going through when he knew what the numbers were, or did he not know what the numbers were?
He didn't know what the numbers were. He was guessing. I mean, it's a repeat of the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah, exactly.
They went in there just assuming
the
Cuban people were going to march down to that beach and rally in support of overthrowing Castro.
No.
And what happened is the Cuban people marched down to that beach and pounded the invading force into the sand.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is another repeat.
Mm-hmm.
They've gone on in just believing that the public would turn on Maduro, even though they elected him by a landslide just last year.
Yeah.
They went in there believing that the military could be encouraged to turn on Maduro.
Mhm.
That really didn't happen.
No.
So the coup has failed, and the bovine excrement, of course, continues to pour out of the corporate media to
Mhm.
try and convince us things are going great for the U.S. down in Venezuela, that this is all going to work out very well in the end. But you're right. John Bolton, he's out there arguing for war. The last report I had was that both Trump and the Pentagon are saying this is not a good idea for us to go into Venezuela.
Yeah.
It would be another Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And the U.S. does not do well in jungle warfare.
Right.
But Bolton's out there saying, do it, do it, do it. So, John, here's your rifle.
Yeah.
And here's your parachute.
Mhm.
And have fun. We'll call Maduro and tell him you're on your way to kick his butt all by yourself.
Right.
We're going to sit this one out.
Yeah. And after the break, I've got a very lovely, well, not lovely, but well documented paper about what the
Well,
U.S.
the break
sanctions.
is starting now, so we're
Okay.
going to have to let you go. And we'll put this on hold, and we'll be right back.
All right.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354. Or visit MIG911.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75%. Dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat. Very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And Claire, what is your next story?
Well, the next story is a little bit more about Venezuela and Trump's neocons and what effects the sanctions are really having. There is a wonderful guy. I'd like to meet him and shake his hand. His name is Kurt Nimmo, and he does some very serious and intelligent reporting about what's happening. And he makes the observation that Bolton and the neocons now infesting the White House are all about war, mass murder, starvation, and the engineered immiseration of millions. But the Washington, D.C. based Center for Economic Policy Research, known by the acronym as CEPR, published a report last Thursday on the effects that U.S. sanctions are having against Venezuela. Now, this is a 27-page paper that was authored by economists Mark Weisbrot and Jeffrey Sachs, who said that the sanctions have inflicted very serious harm to human life in Venezuela. And here is another contribution by another blogger, Ricardo Vaz from Mint Press. The sanctions are depriving Venezuelans of life-saving medicines, medical equipment, and other essential imports. And this is from Weisbrot, who is the co-defender of CEPR. And for his part, Sachs added, American sanctions are deliberately aiming to wreck Venezuela's economy and thereby lead to a regime change. They make messes all over the world.
Yes, they
and,
do.
you know, they call it economic warfare, and it's in violation of international law because neocons don't look at international law. And one thing that Nemo said that is very troubling to me, the cult of MAGA, and that's the acronym, I believe, for Make America Great Again, right?
Okay.
Or a significant faction therein have absorbed the lies on Venezuela that has been put out by the neocons. And it makes them, in effect, a cheering section for mass murder. You know, and it was, and I'm beginning to like this gal a little bit, it was freshman Representative Ilhan Omar that brought out the neocon side of the MAGA cultists. She made the mistake of blaming the United States and its neocon hijacked foreign policy for the deepening crisis in Venezuela. And you know, Mike, I hate it when people in politics are telling the truth but get jumped on or punished for it, which I think she did.
That's in our culture.
Oh,
okay.
man.
You tell the official lie, and
yeah.
you'll be okay. If you challenge the official lie, if you try and tell the truth, you're under attack.
Oh, it's the same thing that happened with Tulsi Gabbard,
Yes.
who went to Syria on her own and discovered the terrifying reality. And remember, this gal is a former vet and very bright. She saw that U.S. efforts in Syria were absolutely backward from what the U.S. should have been doing, and she got punished.
Yes.
And to some degree shot down also.
Well, she's back now, and I wish her a lot of luck. I don't agree with everything that she says.
No.
But, you know, all I can tell, Tulsi, stay out of small aircraft.
Yes, please. And there was a very thoughtful article yesterday, and I believe it's also out of Zero Hedge again. And it's titled The Microcosm of Everything Wrong with Foreign Policy. And it was this issue that the Senate failed to override the Trump veto on Yemen.
Yes.
This so bothers me. And, you know, it would be kind of interesting if all of the Congress people had to put their money in a blind trust like the president does.
Yeah, I suggested that yesterday.
Yeah, I have to. I mean, if you look at any of the images which I have posted, and I said, guys, it's graphic, bear with me. You need to know what the heck is going on out here. And it was originally, by the way, from Common Dreams, which is another very sober-sided vote. What we are doing in Yemen is we are enabling Saudi war crimes.
Yes.
I'm talking about barrages of gunfire aimed at men, women, children, civilians, non-coms, and just people, the wrong place at the wrong time, schools, hospitals, universities. I don't know where in the Islamic tradition killing people with impunity is so great a thing, because to me as a Christian, you try to figure out ways where you don't have to kill out people, you know?
Well, that would be a good
bothers
idea,
me.
but you kill people who are sitting over resources that you want.
I know. And the article goes on to state Yemen is a microcosm of everything that is wrong with U.S. foreign policy. And it goes to the heart of how the U.S. is conducting dozens of hidden wars around the world without anybody at home noticing. I noticed.
Yep,
I
me
noticed.
too.
People around me have noticed. And that has been a very big cosmic aha for me to understand that there are people who know what's going on. And the Senate needed 67 votes, to override the president's veto, but the final margin Thursday was 54 to 45. Every no vote was cast by a Republican. 7 Republicans joined Democrats in voting in favor of the veto override. And whoever those Republicans were, you have my respect on this. And in a statement after the veto override failed, Sanders said something interesting. And he said that he would keep vowing to continue working to end the U.S. involvement in Yemen. And this is a statement directly from him. The bad news today, we were unable today to override Trump's veto regarding U.S. intervention in this horrific war in Yemen. But Sanders also said, the good news is that for the first time in 45 years, Congress used the War Powers Act to reassert its constitutional responsibility for the use of armed forces.
That's exactly the way it's supposed to be under the Constitution.
Yeah.
Only Congress can declare war.
Yeah. And, you know, I look at these images many times through Bing.com because Google will not show them anymore. They want everything sanitized and sterilized for your viewing enjoyment.
Yes,
Well,
Google,
folks,
the search engine for funny kitten videos.
yeah, exactly. Guys, steel yourselves. If you type into a search engine, Bing.com, images, Yemeni children killed by Saudi air attacks, you will get something you're not going to get from the national news.
Nope.
And these figures are haunting, and especially the kids who are now suffering from malnutrition and cholera on top of it. The water infrastructure in Yemen has been completely blown to smithereens. Their ports are being blockaded by both the U.S. and the Saudi forces. I mean, come on. How do you possibly describe this as decent and moral? And as an American who's also a Christian, I can't. I just can't, Michael. No way. Yeah, it's pretty grim.
It is not
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Okay.
And we have an interesting article here. And I think this came also from Zero Hedge. For lower paid workers, the robot overlords have arrived.
Oh, this has to be about Amazon.
Oh, yeah. And the article starts out a little bit tongue-in-cheek and says, it's time to stop worrying that robots will take our jobs and start worrying that they will decide who gets the jobs. And now, with a lot of low-paid workers, their lives are increasingly governed by software and algorithms. Mike, can you kind of explain? I think I know what that word algorithm means. It's a computer formula. Could you?
Yeah,
clear
basically
this up?
that's it.
Yeah.
It's in fact, saying software and algorithms is kind of redundant from the Bureau of Redundancies
Yeah.
Department.
Okay.
And but that's basically what it is.
Mhm.
And Amazon, of course, has come out with this system
Mhm.
that tracks the productivity of
Yeah.
its employees
Yeah.
and can actually fire the employees with no human intervention.
Nothing. Not a zip.
You're walking out the back door, you're
Mhm.
punching your little time card, and you get handed a pink slip.
You're fired.
Yep.
Yeah. This is, this is anti-human. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Amazon has done well in terms of how it has built itself up as an empire. But I think that part of that empire has to be focused back for the good of the people who work for you. I remember you telling me that Henry Ford, he hated unions, but he paid his workers enough so that they could buy the Fords. They could take them out in the community. People could see that this was the way of the future.
That was his best advertising.
And wow.
And he had a saying, the best way to become prosperous is to make the community around you prosper. Wisdom, which is absent here in the 21st century, where the attitude is, I want my billions now, and the rest of you stop screaming about minimum wage or the robot will fire you.
That's pretty terrifying. And apparently, this technology news site, The Verge, Amazon has had to respond to a complaint that it had fired an employee from a Baltimore fulfillment center for federally protected activity, which could include union organizing. And Amazon said that the employee was fired for failing to meet productivity targets. You know, this is a really bad road.
I agree.
As a business model, you take care of your people so your people take care of you. That, to me, should be at the heart and center of all business practices.
Well, this Amazon system is basically the cybernetic equivalent of the overseer, with the whip behind you, faster, harder, faster.
Yes. Now we go to a bill that is about to be passed in Florida, and it's a bill prohibiting anti-Semitism in Florida's public schools and universities, and it's going to Republican Governor Ron DeSantis. Now, the Senate unanimously passed the bill on Monday, 2 days after that horrible shooting at the California synagogue, killing one and injuring 3 others. Lawmakers mentioned the shooting before passing the bill, which would mandate that discrimination against Jewish people can be treated the same as acts of racial discrimination in public schools. Now, the bill also includes an extensive definition of anti-Semitism, including speech that makes dehumanizing or stereotypical allegations about the Jewish community. And the anti-Semitism definition also includes expressing hatred for Jews, calling for their killing or harming, criticizing the collective power of the Jewish community, or accusing Jewish people or Israel of inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. I think that one was interesting.
That last one I do have a problem with. Once again, attack on the First Amendment.
Yeah, and I don't criticize my Jewish friends. And as a Christian, I understand that there is something in common with our Jewish brothers and sisters, as with our Muslim brothers and sisters. Very clearly, we are all people of the book, a religious narrative that comes down from very, very old times. And we each have our books, and some of the Old Testament, I know the Christian community adopted as the background for what became the New Testament scriptures. But that being said, okay, I will continue in the most peaceful, honorable, and honest way I can to throw some light on the conduct of the Israeli government when it annoys me, both logically and morally. And right now they're doing a real heck of a great, a great job going on. I want to see a flowering, peaceful Israel, a peaceful, prosperous Palestine, where neighbors can focus on goods and services instead of bombs and bullets. You know, it just...
Peace through commerce. And it almost feels like we've entered a new dark ages. And certainly this effort to censor communication among the people is not a good sign.
No, it's not. And, I have one little piece to put in before the break. And this is regarding Bill Barr. In June of 2008, he was then in private practice at Kirkland and Ellis. And at that time, he wrote a detailed legal memorandum to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Now, this memo came up in December when Barr was nominated for Attorney General. And at Lawfare, Michaela Fogel and Benjamin Wittes were kind of looking at it and saying, what is this guy smoking? Why won't he share? It is not an exaggeration to say that Barr's entire memo is predicated on two broad assumptions. First, that he knows Mueller's legal theory, and secondly, that he understands the fact pattern that Mueller is investigating. And he said neither assumption is, in our judgment, warranted. Unlike Barr, we don't purport to know what Mueller's obstruction theory is. But now that we have the Mueller report, things are looking very different. What Barr did, and I don't know if this is sort of an equivalent to an amicus curiae brief, was to create a workable defense to the charge of obstruction, which was originally to be placed against Trump. So, it's no accident, folks, when he was nominated as federal attorney general, and guess what? There was only one name on that list, and it was Barr's.
Okay.
Yep. And interesting, this was about the time, June of 2018, when Barbie Allen accepted her position at Poynter. I don't think timing is ever a coincidence with these elements.
Generally, it isn't. You know, you
Yeah.
have to look at how many people are shuffling, who is shuffling.
Right.
And yeah.
And Bloomberg, as you mentioned earlier, is now saying he's going to do an extensive and thorough investigation of Obama holdovers regarding the 2016 election and whether the spying conducted by the FBI against the Trump campaign in 2016 was improper.
Which it absolutely
Gee,
was.
you think? Oh, you know, it's time to get the popcorn, sort of lean back, and, you know, look at what's going on, because there are going to be some interesting political fireworks coming out of this,
Yep.
Mike. Yeah. And interesting bits on China. And China has just threatened Australia, insulted Britain, and cut Canadian imports. Threatened three of America's closest allies. And the threats illustrate Xi's desire to shape a new international order of mercantilism with Beijing at the top. And he is willing to do whatever it takes to get the world to accept that order.
Well, there's a lot of bias and spin written into
Oh,
this.
yes, I know,
Okay,
I know.
Because it's not like China is trying to force the rest of the world to do business with them,
No.
the way the U.S. is doing with tariffs and
Yeah,
sanctions.
mhm.
When that Belt and Road Initiative is completed,
Mhm.
it's going to be very attractive, and the
Right.
world is going to beat a path to his door.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm really kind of...
We have to take a break
Okay,
here.
all right.
All right, we're on our last commercial break.
All
Back
right.
with the last segment of our program
Mhm.
after these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to aroutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at aroutfitting.com.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program today. And Claire, you got a great story here.
Yes, this is news. I didn't see it on any of the crawls of the corporate media. No.
Yeah.
But it's been official. The U.S. has renewed Iran sanction waivers for nuclear work. A moment of sanity? Who knew? The Trump administration today renewed 5 of 7 sanction waivers that allow Russia and European nations to conduct civilian nuclear cooperation with Iran, even as the U.S. steps up the pressure on Tehran, a U.S. official said. The waivers, which were due to expire Saturday, were extended between 45 and 90 days, shorter periods than had been granted in the past, but that this will allow Iran to do some work at several nuclear sites to continue without U.S. penalties. Under the terms of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, Russia and several European nations help to maintain these facilities, and they're engaged in converting equipment there for exclusively civilian use. And facilities included in the waiver include the Bushehr nuclear power plant, the Fordow enrichment facility, the Arak nuclear complex, and the Tehran research reactor, the official said. Must have been an adult there in the room somewhere that said, you know, this may not be a good idea, and they got President Trump to listen. Or, as you said on the break, this is more about making
that these
case.
other nations said, look,
Yeah.
you know, we're halfway through. We can't just stop
Yeah.
doing this kind of maintenance
Yeah,
work on
yeah.
nuclear facilities. We're going to keep on going.
Mhm.
And so Trump said, very well, I'm going to save face here.
Mhm, yeah.
We, the United States, grant you permission. to
Magnanimously.
magnanimously.
Of course,
how,
yeah.
How generously here.
Yeah, and I just, every once in a while, I look at this administration, and what I'm seeing is disjunctness, disconnectedness, not able to see or work a plan through in a way that doesn't involve war. I think the U.S. just stepped back from the brink on this just a little
Well,
bit.
this wasn't really
Yeah.
the brink. I mean, this was just the nuclear work,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, on Iran's civilian facilities.
Mhm.
Would have been a lot better if they had reinstated the waivers for Iran to sell their oil.
Amen. Yeah.
Which I think would be a good thing. And again, we may see the same thing happen there, where all these other nations are saying, look, we have to buy Iran's oil. We
Mhm.
don't have any choice.
Yeah.
So you can either, you know, look good
Mhm.
and renew the waivers,
Yep.
or it's just going to be obvious that you are losing your grip on the rest of the world. I know that Iran and Iraq earlier
Mhm.
today
Oh, yeah.
were saying, yeah, we have to continue.
Yeah.
There are no alternative sources for us to use here.
Mhm. Yeah. So, one small step for humankind, maybe, in terms of ratcheting down the tensions. Please take care of each other this weekend and have a great time.
Well, we're not quite to the end
All
there.
right. Would you like to start with one of your talking points?
Well, basically, as I mentioned earlier in the show, oh, there's the music. All right. Vamp till Q.
Yes.
All right, there's the end of our program here.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you.
And thank you for listening and watching. As
Absolutely.
always.
And thank you for the donations.
Yes.
We really need them. They really help. Again, take what you learn here at Republic Broadcasting and at whatreallyhappened.com. Share it with everybody that you know. And we'll be back on Monday. Aloha, America.